Hey again, guys. Happy Monday. If you were not on our 9 o'clock training, then hello. If you were on our 9 o'clock training, then welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Let's turn this off a little bit, shall we? As few distractions as possible. There we go. I'm going to give, as always, going to give you guys a few minutes to pop in here. I know you guys get the notifications, and sometimes you just need to close down what you're doing. And the fact that I actually started right at 9:30 is probably weird because you're like, oh, Bree goes on at 9:30. That means we'll see her at like 9:32, 9:35. But all I had to do was make some coffee, and I got off my training just a little bit early. We made it through pretty fast, so I had time. So yeah, give you all just a few minutes to jump on. We'll talk about some updates, which aren't any real updates, but yeah, as you guys are jumping in, I see people jumping in on YouTube and on Facebook and on my business page. Cool. So as you're jumping on there, guys, let me know you're here. Say hey in the comments and I'll say hey back. Start putting in your questions if you have them. That's why you're here, right? You have questions to be answered. So go ahead and start asking your questions. I will make it through as many as I possibly can. I was curious if you're going to get here. Okay, creepy as F, right? But it's Venom, you guys, from Marvel. So it's creepy, but it's fine because Wendy is a fellow comic book nerd. So now I'm not a comic book nerd. I'm a movie nerd. Let's be honest. I don't think I've ever popped open a comic book, but I've watched all the movies. So where did we get this, Wendy? I feel like I got it at a garage sale, or Travis got it at a garage sale. But he also used to get like these pop culture monthly boxes, so maybe it came from there. Pretty sure garage sale though. I don't know. Anyway, as you guys are jumping in, I see a few of you. Okay. We're slowly trickling in. Remember what we're here for. We're here for Q&A, right? So feel free to start God, somebody needs a haircut. Like, I can't even see. And that's because last week my bangs, I had them back because I either wore a hat all week or I didn't really care because I didn't leave the house. I stayed home. So, or I wore a hat. The few times I went out last week, I wore a hat. My bangs don't need to do anything when I wear a hat. So I think they grew a lot in a week. Didn't know you guys were coming here for hair tips, did you? So, okay. Let's start as you guys, to give you guys all some more time to trickle in and start putting your questions in the comments. Ask them, because if you guys don't ask questions, then we don't have a half-hour show. It's a show. It's not a show. I don't do a show. But I will start with updates, you guys. So, sorry, trash trucks. There are no updates. I mean, the only thing we've been focused on, right, is the election. That's all that any of the government's been focused on the last however long. And right before that, they were confirming a new judge. And so let's talk though. I will give you what I think will happen based on how things are going now. Okay, so in case you've been living under a rock, it appears that Joe Biden has been elected our next president. So he will get inaugurated on January 20th of next year. It appears that the House will stay blue, barely. And the red Senate is right now in a deadlock. There are 48 Democrat and 48 Republican senators at this moment in time. Alaska and North Carolina are expected to be red, 48 to 48. What did I say? It's 48 to 48, yes. So North Carolina and Alaska are expected to stay red, which would give them 50. And Georgia made it fun, as if this election wasn't fun enough. Georgia ended up having 2 Senate seats up for grabs this year. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally they do them they alternate so that one state isn't running both seats at the same time. But there was something like somebody got sick. I don't know my dates. 2019, got sick. Someone else took their place. So now they have to do a special run, or they had to be in this election in 2020 to hold her seat until 2022. Do I know anyone's names? No, because I never thought I would care about what happens in Georgia. But apparently now we all do, okay? Because assuming that North Carolina and Alaska stay red, they're not done, but assuming they stay red, they will have 50 senators in Senate, which leaves the Georgia 2. If they would have to both be blue, be Democrat, for there to be a tie in Senate. A tie, you say? Yes. Well, what happens with the tie? Then the vice president breaks ties. And as it stands right now, that it's looking to be that our vice president will be blue. Okay? So, yes, blue, Democrat, whatever. So, that's where we are. We think we have a president. I mean, I think we have a president, but things need to be confirmed. Ballots need to be counted. All these things need to happen. Normal things, you guys. Ballots are normally, this is all normal things, okay? Anywho, so if things pan out the way we think it would happen right now, okay? House will be blue. Senate will probably be red. Presidency will be blue. Okay, so what does that mean for us? Because all we care about here in Money Tax Finance for Small Business and on my YouTube channel is, when do we get our stimulus, right? That's what I care about. When is somebody going to pass a damn stimulus so that we get our $1,200 that we haven't seen when's the last time we got a stimulus? Yeah, $1,200 every 6 months, you guys. I don't know about you, but I can't live off $2,400 a year. Just saying. We will find out if we're going to get any blanket forgiveness on PPP, right? We need to know that. We want to know if our EIDL grant is going to continue to be subtracted from our PPP forgivable amount, or if they're going to get rid of it, because that's also that's being discussed. And what else? We want to know if there's a second round of PPP, right? We also want to know if this second loan assistance program or grant assistance program that the House had introduced back in September, is that going to be a thing we can cash in on? I don't know. What else are we waiting to hear on? We're waiting to hear if our current SBA loans, raise your hand if you have an SBA loan on your business. I do, before CARES Act. If we're going to get another deferment on that, or have the SBA pay it for me. Sorry, people keep walking by my window. Nobody ever walks by my window. And these kids keep walking by. Troublemakers. Just kidding. So we don't know. So the sooner we can get back. So the question is, will we see something? You guys, some of the news outlets are saying, and we're saying, as soon as we realized we weren't getting the House's stimulus bill wasn't passing in September, we were being told we might need to wait till February. And we still might have to wait till February, because right now, until the end of the year, things are the same, right? House is blue, Senate's red, President is red, okay? So we're in the same thing we've been in all year. We need the Senate and the House to agree on something so the President can sign off, okay? We're in the same picture, regardless of what the election says. That's where we are for the next month and a half, okay? That's what we need to happen. That's what we need to happen for something to get passed to help us out. Okay, Senate and House got to come to terms. President's got to say yes. Okay, if they don't, then I don't know. It sounds like it's one of Joe Biden's top things to get passed, but he has who knows? All right. So the question is, will we see something before the end of the year? And No, I'm going to guess not, because I think just as all of the focus for the last few weeks was on the election and all of the Senate's focus before that was on confirming a new Supreme Court justice, that I think the focus until the January 7th runoff in Georgia is going to be that runoff. I hope they prove me wrong, but so far they haven't. So that's my take. So let's get to, okay, Wendy's got a question. So Wendy asks, ooh, I got to remember I can do this thing. Have you heard anything about next year's taxes going back to normal tax line deadlines? I haven't heard that they won't. So I don't see, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. And I'm just kind of trying to think of like, what's my take on it? So last year, it was March 16th when they moved the April 15th deadline to July 15th, right? Because that's when the pandemic and the coronavirus really got, when we started quarantining hard and enforced quarantine, safer at home, all that stuff. What I would think is that they have to pass a budget at some point before the end of the year as well. And I would think that when they pass the budget, if they're planning on extending tax season, they would say it then. That's just my guess. I don't think they're going to wait because Corona's already here. Quarantine's already here. So everything's already here. So we're not waiting for something to say, never mind, we're not going to make tax day for another 6 months, right? So I think if they're going to move anything, we'll hear it by the end of the year. Again, I'm just guessing. Who really knows? Next tax season, I know there's a lot of you in here that are just business owners, but I know we have a lot of bookkeepers and tax preparers and accountants in here. And if you have not, if you've been avoiding PPP, okay, if you are a tax preparer and you are watching this and you have been avoiding PPP because you've just been avoiding dealing with it because it's been a rough year, right? It's been too much for whatever reason. I know that I have a lot of colleagues that are just like, I have enough going on. I can't learn something else. I don't need to learn about this, all these things, but we're going to have to because it's going to affect 2020 tax prep. So 2021 tax season, we will see affected by PPP. A lot, right? And EIDL grants, right? Because those are items, you guys, they're creating taxable events. Okay, so the EIDL grant, typically, you guys, anytime you as a business or a person, anytime you receive grant money, it's taxable income. Okay, so all of us that got $1,000, anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000 in an EIDL grant, it was free money, but it is income. It is taxable income, and you are expected to report it on your tax return as taxable income. PPP, the forgivable portion. So if you have any PPP funds that end up being a loan, guys, it stays as a loan, just as if you would borrow money from a bank, right? Anytime you borrow money, it's not income. Just like when you repay the loan principal, it's not an expense. So, but the forgivable part of PPP, okay? So technically, it turns into a grant almost, right? It turns into free money from the government, right? So it's, by every definition of the word, it becomes a grant. Well, I just said grant money is taxable unless it's specifically outlined as not taxable. Well, when they passed the CARES Act way back in whenever they passed it, April, March, whenever they passed it, it was so long ago. They said the forgivable amount of PPP will not be considered taxable income on your return. So we're like, okay, great, free money. Well, then a few months later, the IRS came back and said, okay, that's fine because we can't overturn what the SBA said or what Congress said. But even though it won't be taxable income to your business, we are not going to let you deduct the expenses you pay for with the forgivable PPP funds. So what does that mean, you ask? Well, having non-deductible expenses is basically the same thing as having taxable income, basically. So let's say you got $10,000 in PPP funds, right? If they would have just said, yes, it's grant money, just like normal grant money always is, it's taxable income, then you would have called it other taxable income on your P&L. And it would have just been added to all the revenue you made this year, less all the expenses you spent this year, okay? It would have tacked on $10,000 to your taxable income. Well, when they said, okay, no, you can't, we don't want it to be taxable income, and then the IRS said, that's fine, but then we're not going to make the deduction or the expenses deductible. Well, if you spent $10,000 on payroll, right? So normally you have your revenue and then all of your expenses, including your payroll, and you end up with your taxable income. Well, now, so if we made $100,000, right, and we spent $20,000 on payroll this year, I'm just trying to make things easy, then we have $80,000 or $20,000 total, right? Then we have $80,000 in taxable income. Let me say it one more time. If you have $100,000 in revenue, okay, you spent $20,000 on expenses, you have $80,000 in taxable income, right? Well, now they're saying, well, out of that $20,000 you spent, the $10,000 you spent using PPP funds that were forgivable, you don't get to deduct those anymore. So what does that do? It subtracts half of those expenses you had, and now your taxable income is $90,000 instead of $80,000. So basically, they're saying it's taxable income. We were hoping that that Congress would fight back, or the SBA would fight back and say, no, the intent was for this to be free money. But I think that would have happened by now. I don't know, though. Is there still a chance? Sure. But does it seem to be at the top of the radar? No, it doesn't. Which you guys, like, people are getting all up in arms about it, but that's, if you're getting free money and it's not taxable, you're essentially double dipping. So that's why usually grant money is free. Grant money is taxable. Okay, because they still want the tax on the free money they're giving you. And then we had some people going, well, then it's not free money. It's not free money if I have to pay taxes on it. Well, if you're in the 24% tax bracket, which is the most common tax bracket, right, and you received $10,000, yes, you're going to have to pay $2,400, but that means you still got $7,600 free. Okay, so that's how that works. Wendy, nothing else? You're usually full of questions for me. What else do I have? Excuse me. If you got, I don't see any more questions coming in, which is fine. We can leave early. We can be done early. I just want to make sure that if you guys do have questions, that we're getting them answered. Let me look and see. I'm just going to peek in the Facebook group and see if there's anything from last week that I didn't answer that I could answer here. Okay. I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can copy this over here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Oh, because it posted everywhere. Cool story, Bree. I made a hot mess of the chat, so it's fine. I should have just posted it in the Facebook group. Okay, so unique PPP question. A 2019 client failed to pay some of my and my colleagues' invoices. A lot of money is at stake, and unfortunately will be suing. The contingency lawyer plans to argue that we were actually misclassified employees, not contractors. Is there any reality where a judgment of this kind could negatively impact our PPPs, given that in the eyes of the court, the income was earned from this client is now deemed as misclassified employment, not self-employment? I'm assuming that, I'm assuming that this would be irrelevant because it was classified as self-employment Schedule C in 2019. Thank you. I don't have a total answer for this because the biggest reason, guys, let me stop covering my face. So basically this is saying it is a unique PPP question. How do I hide it? There it is, hide. Okay, it is unique, but let's take a step back. So you're suing and you're saying that they should have paid you as employees, not contractors. That is a big thing that ends up. So let me talk to my employers for a second, okay? Because as an employer, so many times we want to keep people as contractors because then we don't have to pay half of the payroll taxes, right? The biggest difference between being a W-2 employee and a 1099 contractor is W-2 employee, your business, the employer pays half of the payroll taxes, the FICA, the Medicare, and then as the employee, the other half is deducted from your paycheck. As a 1099 contractor, nothing's deducted. You just get paid your gross amount of what you earned, and then you are responsible for paying your taxes, right? But we see this, I don't see it a lot, but you do read lots of cases of contractors suing the businesses because they should have been employees. So the specific question is saying is, could this affect your PPP? I mean, technically the answer is yes, because then technically you'll file an amended 2019 return. You'll have less income, but that's way too many steps for them to go back and say, this all goes back to then you realize they gave you too much money, right? But there are so many banks that gave taxpayers too much money for different reasons, okay? We won't even get into it. So I don't think it's gonna affect it. I think what it all comes back down to, I don't think they're gonna go back and audit that far, you guys. They're not gonna start auditing if people got the right amounts. Can I guarantee they're not gonna audit it? No. But I don't think they're going to, because that's a lot of work that they would have to audit every single borrower to see how much they should have actually received. So the key is making sure you're spending it now on those qualified expenses, okay? The question goes back to, does it matter if you got the wrong amount? I don't think so, as long as you're spending it right. Now, if you got too much and you can't spend it right? You cannot spend it on those qualified expenses, then you have to decide, do I want to take out the loan, take out the rest of that money as a loan, or do I want to give it back? Okay, because that's what it comes down to, because we have a lot of, especially sole proprietors, right, that don't have rent, don't have utilities, business stuff, to where don't have employees. And the only way they have to spend the money in a forgivable way is on their own payroll. But then there's rules that say you can only pay yourself a certain amount, right? You can't just pay it all, you have to pay it based on in line with your 2019 self-employment income. So you can't just give yourself all the money if you got overpaid, because you're not going to get forgiven for all of it. So what do you do with that extra money? And if you genuinely cannot find a qualified reason to spend it, okay, that you will get forgiven for, then you can keep it and continue to pay yourself, longer. And we have plenty of trainings where we talk about all this, or you can pay it back. But if you take it, if you pay yourself longer, it's going to be a loan. Okay, and you're gonna have to take it out and pay interest on it. So that's what it comes down to. Do you want to pay interest on the loan? Do you need the money that bad, right? Do you need the money that bad that you need to take out a loan, or can you give it back and save on the interest? That's what it comes down to. So, oh my God, I made such a mess of the comments, you guys. I need to make sure I never comment in StreamYard. I need to make sure I comment, like I open Facebook and comment directly there. What a mess. Okay. What category should grant money be placed at? So different accountants are going to tell you different things, because really this comes down to preference. I would put it as what's called below the line item. All right. Because I don't want to see it wrapped up into revenue. Because when and many times when you're looking at your financials, you're trying to figure out, well, how much did I earn last year? I don't want to include that grant money in what I earned, right? Because I didn't earn it. So my financials look like this, you guys. I have all my earned revenue up here, right? My sales of services, okay? All the money in. Then I have my cost of goods, or my cost of sales, cost of service. So there. And then I have all my expenses, my operating expenses. Then I have my net income. So all my revenue minus all my legit expenses equals my net income. And then I have below the line items, which are things that don't, so that is my, that's where I put my interest expense, because that's not really considered an operating expense by most accountants. I put my depreciation down there, but you may put it different places. But that is where I'm putting my grant, like if I received grant money. Well, so for me, great example. So I had an SBA loan. I just talked about it. I had an SBA loan already that I bought my firm with, that I've been paying since I bought the firm in 2017. Well, part of the CARES Act says that the SBA will pay your loan for 6 months. So it's not a deferment. It's not that they added it on to the end of my loan. They basically forgave it, is what they did. The SBA paid themselves my loan amount for that 6 months. So so the last payment that was made on my behalf was made in September. So when I'm going out, and I'm like, well, my loan amount's going down, right? But there's not cash going out. So where does that money go? It goes, I put it as other income, SBA, something, CARES Act for something, right? So that's what I would do for any grant money. How specific you want to be if you're getting a lot of grants, right? You can lump it all into one account, other income account. So you're going to use the other income. If you're using QuickBooks Online, Xero, Wave, excuse me, if you use other income, it'll stick it below the line. Okay. Other income. And then if you want to just make one account called grant money, you can. If maybe you only got a few and you want to see where they came from, so I have my EIDL grant as one line item, and then I have my SBA payments as another, just so I can see. But I could have lumped that all together just as easily and still been correct. The reason I think you want it as other income and a below the line item is because when you do go file your tax return, you guys, when you file a tax return, you have a screen, no matter who you use, for whether you self-prepare or you pay someone to do it, or, and no matter what your preparer, what software they use, there's a screen for earned income, all the money you earn. And then there is an other income screen. And I want that income on other income because you didn't earn it. It's not something that you received for the sale of your goods or services. So Wendy says, I have an SBA loan. I'm not counting the money or the experience, but is it okay to count the interest? Not sure. I'm not counting the money or I don't know exactly what you're asking, Wendy, but let's go with it. But is it okay to count the interest? You cannot deduct the interest still because you're not paying the interest. So what I did is I had my loan balance of the last payment I made was in April, maybe. I don't know. May, June, July, August, September. Yes. The last payment I made was in March. So in March, I have an amortization schedule, that says how much out of my monthly payment goes to principal and goes to interest expense. Okay, so let me say that. I have an SBA loan. I'm not counting the money or the expense, but is it okay to count to the interest? So no. So let's say your loan before the SBA started paying it is $10,000. Okay. And then, so your balance was $10,000. And then as that 6 months went by, you now know that your loan balance is, let's just say it's $8,000 now. Okay. In order to reconcile your loan balance, right, you've got to subtract $2,000. So that means it's other income of $2,000. You can't do anything with the interest. You can't. You won't be able to tie out your balance and take that interest expense because you didn't pay the interest. And I mean, if you did, then it would count the other side of that. The credit of that would be SBA income, other income. So it would be a wash. So I'm just not doing it at all. I just created an SBA income account that I credited for the exact amount I had to debit my loan to bring it down to the balance I now owe. I hope that makes sense. Okay, well, man, you guys, time flies when you're having fun. It is 10 o'clock. There's the trash trucks. They're later than last week. Last week they were like so loud and on time. So I don't see any more questions. If you guys do have questions, go ahead. If you're watching this in replay, guys, and questions come up, don't put them in here. Okay, go to the Money, Tax, and Finance group in Facebook and post them as your own post in that group, because I don't come back here and look at comments. That's just not an efficient use of my time. So if you're watching this on replay and you have a question about anything we talked about or anything else, you have two options. You can come to the updates and questions next week at 9:30 Mountain Standard Time on Monday. That's where we are every single week. Or you can go to the Money, Tax, and Finance for Small Business Owners Facebook group and post it in the group there. All right. I think that's it. So, and if you're not a business owner, you can follow our Bree Beers and Associates Facebook page and post your questions there as well. So plenty of options. Just don't post them here because I won't see them. All right. That's it. Wendy, let me take your comment down. And that's it, you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And I'm trying to think if there's anything big going on. Not on my end. So I will see you guys next week. If you guys are training at 9 o'clock next next Monday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we're actually talking about how to borrow from your retirement tax-free this year. It's a 2020 rule only. We're talking about it next week because you're running out of time to do this. It was part of the CARES Act, I think. I don't condone borrowing from your retirement. I don't ever do that, but I also know that we are in unprecedented times and sometimes shit happens and you got to do what you got to do. So next week I will fill you in on how to borrow from your retirement, short-term, tax and interest free. All right. Bye guys.